What's good, everybody? It is Reed and welcome back to another tutorial. Today I'm going to be teaching a pretty classic trick, kind of my take on it. This is going to be the lie detector effect. So it's probably a plot a lot of you guys know, but this is my handling on it. My handling's pretty hands-off. The method is pretty great, pretty fair, something I've taught before, which is nice. And then my presentation tips, I think you guys will like a lot. I have a lot of cool little ideas, different ways you can make it better. So for those of you who don't know, the lie detector plot is essentially you being a human lie detector. Someone picks a card, you don't see it, and you ask them questions and you can figure out if they're telling the truth or lying to you, all the way until you determine what their card is. So there's not too much to say on this one. Let's just jump right in to the video. We got Sarah back. She's gonna help me out with another performance. So let's get right into it. All right, Sarah, got a regular deck of cards. You guys know just the bikes. Give those a nice shuffle for me. Nice riffle.
Nice. Pretty good at this.
Yeah, whenever you're satisfied.
Okay, good.
You're good? Okay. So what I'm gonna have you do is just select any card you want. Now it's really important that I don't see what card this is, so just touch it. That one right there, you sure? Have a look?
Mm-hmm.
You got it?
Yep.
I'll close it and give it to you and you shuffle. Okay, right away. So the idea of a lie detector, obviously I don't have the machine with me, but I'm a bit of a lie detector. I can usually tell when people are lying. So I'm gonna ask you some questions about your card. You can tell the truth or you can lie, totally up to you. I'm gonna try to read you as best as I can, all right guys? My first question, okay? Is it a black card?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, see how she doesn't really smile like that? That means she's telling the truth, okay? Okay, and now, is it a number card versus a picture card? Yes, it's a number card. There's the smile I was looking for. See, now she's smiling. So she's lying. She's lying. Okay, that narrows down my options a lot if it's a picture card then. Okay, that's great.
Is it?
So, okay, now the suit. It can either be a club or a spade because you told me the truth that it was black. Think about the suit, okay? Spade, spade, spade. Is it a spade?
Yes.
Yeah, it is. Okay, that was obvious. Shouldn't even try to hide that. Okay, so then there's 3 picture cards. Okay, I'm just gonna say them out loud, okay? Don't make any, don't answer me, nothing. Just keep a straight face. Jack, Queen, King, Jack, Queen, King, Jack, Queen. It's Queen, the Queen of Spades. Queen of Spades, is that your card?
Yes.
That's her card, and that is lie detector. And I want to thank Sarah for helping me out with the performance of this trick. I hope you guys liked it. I just want to give you a sense of what it looks like, how I kind of do it. I really like doing this trick with more people. It's good to get other members of the audience involved, but we'll talk about that in a bit. So how does this trick work? Well, it's pretty easy. I always like to start out with having the spectator shuffle. As you guys know, every trick I think starts out the best that way. So I'll hand out the deck, let them shuffle it, and then there's a few things you can do. What we're aiming for is a peek of the bottom card. So ideally they'll be shuffling the pack, and at some point when they shuffle, they'll kind of flash the bottom card. So often with an overhand shuffle, you'll even have people shuffle upside down. Now I don't like this as much because then it's going to be the last card they see when they give it back to you. So if that's the case, I would probably do some sort of cut and then a peek, and I'll explain kind of how you get that peek without them noticing. But oftentimes, you'll have someone shuffle and maybe they'll turn and they'll flash the bottom card and they won't even see it. The main thing you want to ensure is that they don't recognize this card. Sometimes it'll flash and their eyes might be able to see it, but they won't register it. As long as you can tell that they haven't registered this card, then you're good to go. Other ways of getting that peek, right? So oftentimes people do the overhand shuffle, and if they're doing it, properly with the faces hidden, you might be able to get a glimpse at some point. Sometimes they'll kind of take a pack and they'll flip it accidentally, and you can kind of track what card goes on the bottom. If you have a table and the person can riffle, I often like to have them riffle. And one thing you can do is peek the bottom card as you give it to them. So as you hand out the deck to them, you can kind of peek that bottom card and then So if I know this card's a 7 of clubs, now they split it, and when they riffle, I watch. If they flip off that bottom card first, I don't even have to look. I know it's still the bottom card. So you can kind of use various methods like this to get a little bit of an idea what that bottom card is. So that's one I like to use. It's always easier to track with a riffle shuffle. A lot of times you'll get people who do a cut kind of like this, and they'll show both bottoms, right? And then you just remember, and then you see which one goes down first, right? So 7 of spades goes down first. And now when they shuffle and they bridge, you don't even need to peek, you know the 7 of spades is on the bottom. So just keep an eye out as they're shuffling, and a lot of times you'll get lucky and you'll know what the bottom card is, okay? So what happens if you don't get a peek of the bottom card naturally? You're gonna need to kind of force that peek. So there's a couple methods. As they hand that back, if you put your hand at eye level, so obviously up off camera for me, but if you put your hand at eye level, as you take the cards back, it'll naturally fall into your line of vision. So what I mean, right, if you take the cards down here, it looks weird to look down like this. But if you take the cards like this, right, you have your hand up high, they put the cards in your hand, you can take them back like this, and you don't even really know that I glimpsed the bottom card. So that's one method. Another one that I like to use is, as I get the cards back like this, I'll start going like this, rotating them as if I'm squaring. But if you hold the pack like this, you can easily see either side, but it simply looks like you're just spinning the cards. And to the camera, it doesn't look like I can see the card, really, because you're only seeing the back, but I can actually see the card right now. Each time I come up, I kind of pivot it and it opens up to my eye line. And all you need is one little glimpse. So I like to do this while I'm talking with them, kind of looking them in the eye. And then I do one rotation, peek really quickly, and I'm already looking them back in the eye, kind of continuing our conversation. And then you just need to remember that card. So there's a lot of different ways you can kind of get that peek of the bottom card. Sometimes it's nice to break it up. You can put the cards down once they're done shuffling, and then you say, all right, let's try something, and you get your peek kind of just like that, and you're ready to go. This is an important moment though in this trick. It all comes down to getting that peek without them noticing. That's super important. It's really what's gonna help sell it. And another point on this kind of rotating peek idea, if you just make sure your audience is over on this side, they'll have absolutely no idea what that card is, right? Because the biggest goal is we don't want to flash this or give them any indication that we're peeking. So the next step of this is kind of interesting, you know? So I've done a video on a bunch of different ways to do a mind reading card trick. And really you can use any one of those methods, right? You can use a riffle force, you can use a crosscut force, you can use all these different kinds of peeks, the bubble peek. But the best method, in my opinion, is gonna be a force over a peek. The peek is nice because you can have a genuinely free choice when you do this. Problem with that is you have to do the peek, and often there's a little bit of a weird moment when you go for that peek. The nice thing about a force, and what I realized was better about the force, is you kind of do the peek, and sometimes you don't even need a peek depending on the force, but you know the card beforehand. So then if your force is done well, it's gonna feel like 100% a free choice, right? I used to think it was so important to have a free choice when you do this trick, but if you do the force properly, it's gonna feel like such a free choice. And then you can hand the deck out immediately, and it's so much cleaner because there's no moment where you have to take the deck back and you kind of look down at the deck as you actually get your peek. So I'm going to teach the method I use for a lie detector, which in this case is my handling of the spread force, which I've taught before. Go check that video out. So we get our peek of the bottom card, and now we execute the spread force. It's pretty simple, right? We just say, okay, I'm going to have you pick a card, and I'll go over it quickly, but you're culling the bottom card to the top as you start to spread, okay? And you're spreading the cards underneath the bottom card. So in this case, 5 of clubs is our force card, right? We'll do that again, so it kind of looks like this from the top. You don't really see it. Then you just say, touch any card you want. They touch it, so let's say they touch this one. You lift it away from the bottom pack, kind of gripping like this. You say, this one, are you sure? As you do that, you're gonna contact this card with the thumb and curl these fingers onto the 5 like this, okay? So you're gonna say, are you sure? You get in position. And then as you bring the cards up, you're just pushing that card over top and using this edge of the deck to square that card up, okay? So at speed, I'll force the 6 of hearts. You just say, you know, pick any card, anyone you want, anyone's possible. This one right here, yeah? And they look, and it's the 6 of hearts, okay? So that's my handling on the spread force. It looks really fair. It just looks like you're bringing the hands up. Go watch that spread force video because this was super brief and there's a lot of little subtleties, and I really go into it in detail in that video. There's this moment where you're holding the deck up, and this is important. You're using this to square the card. But it also makes it feel like you're hiding the card from other people, or you're hiding it so only they see it. And that's really nice because it's, you know, we don't want anyone else to see it in this case. I like to do this little thing as well where I just kind of tap on that card and say, you got this one, just to make sure, you know, they're looking at the right card, of course. And then what's really nice is the second you ask them, do you got it? And they say yes, you close it and you give it to them to shuffle instantly. And that's why the force is so much cleaner, because in their mind, you did this, they see a card, you close it, and you give it to them. And I also like to do this. A really nice tip is to do this with your head turned the other way. Do the force, do everything. It should be really easy. You don't need to look, and I do this all with my head turned, okay? do the entire force of my head turn, close the pack, give it to them to shuffle. My head turn is turned the entire time, and then I look back at them once they've started shuffling. So it just feels so clean, right? So that's the method. That's how we identify their card without them knowing. Now the rest of this trick really comes down to performance. So at this point, we know their card, and we want to emphasize that, you know, they could have chosen any card and the card only exists in their mind. They've only seen it. There's one interesting presentation point that you can kind of make up your own mind on, and that's whether you want only one person to see that card or you want multiple people to. I get conflicted on which one I prefer. A lot of times I'll just go with one person, because then that person, you know, can't accuse anyone of helping me or anything like that. But it's nice with a group. If everyone sees the card, then when you can do the lie detector plot with different people, which is super nice. So if you're in a bigger group, I would probably go with that, because you can ask different people and pretend like you're reading different people. And it's nice that everyone knows the card, so at the reveal at the end, everyone can react rather than just the one person. So the one thing to keep in mind when you're showing more people, you know, people might think, oh, he had more time to peek at it because you kind of have to go like this. But I don't think, you know, it's that serious. As long as you keep your head away, it's really nice. So at this point, you want to say, you know, I'm going to ask you a series of yes or no questions. You can lie or tell the truth. Try to keep a poker face, and I'm going to do my best to assess you. You really want to let them know what's going to happen so that they can feel like this is a bit of a game. That's kind of what makes this plot so strong, is the sort of game aspect. Everyone loves the idea of trying to fool you and try to deceive you and lie to you. And when you start guessing it right every time, people are going to get a little annoyed, and it's kind of fun, and they'll try harder to really, you know, not let you read them. So it really feels like you're reading them if you do this properly. And that's really the appeal of this trick. I mean, it's so simple. It's just a mind reading trick, and you could just name the card right away, but the lie detector plot, people really love to participate in, and that's why it's also nice with a group, and you can have lots of people in on it. So the first question I always start with is color. I usually try to break this down into as many questions as I can to make it last longer. So I think I have 5 or 6 questions that I ask. So I start with color. You know, I'll just say, is it black or is it red? And you want to also emphasize that this is always yes or no questions. So, you know, they're not giving you any more information about the card. You don't want to say, is it black or red? Right? You just want to say, is it black? Yes or no. Right? And then when they name that, then you can say you're lying or you're telling the truth, I think, right? It's always I think. You don't want to say I know. We're kind of, lie detectors aren't a perfect science, so you want to, you know, pretend like you're a little bit uncertain when you do this. And then I'll go to face card or number card. Now, if it's a number card, I got a lot to play with. If it's a face card, it narrows it down a little bit. So it does take out one of the questions, but that's fine. So I'll pick one of them. I just kind of do it on the fly. Let's say, I'll usually go with, is it a picture card? Because people know what I mean by picture card, but it doesn't matter. You could easily say, is it a number card? And then they'll say yes or no. I just kind of go with it on the fly, but I usually lean towards picture cards, and I usually lean towards color black. I don't know why. And then once you've figured out the color in the first step, you can move into the suits. You can say, all right, so I think you lied to me on the first one, or I think you told the truth to me on the first one. It is red or black, whichever one it is. Then you say, okay, now, there's 2 suits in that color, you name the suit, so let's imagine it's a black card, right? You got spades or clubs, so you just pick one of them. I totally just pick at random. I say, is it a club? And then they'll say yes or no. If it's a picture card, I go straight into the next question. If it's a number card, I have a little question in the middle that I'll always ask. I'll say something like, you know, we have cards that are greater than 5, and then we have cards that are, you know, 5 and below. And I'll say, is your card 5 and below? So I'll divide it up like that, just to get one more question in to really, you know, draw out the effect a little bit, get a little bit more, and then they'll answer that, yes or no. And then once I've, you know, determined if they're lying or telling the truth, I'll simply go into the last question, which I also use if it's a picture card. I'll just go straight to this question. I'll say, all right, just keep a straight face, don't say anything. I'm just gonna name all the numbers. So if it's, you know, 1 to 5, I'll say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I usually like to repeat it again. I'll go 1, 2, 3, and say theirs is a 2, right? Then I'll say 3, 2, 3, 2, right? So I'll go through the numbers once, then go through them again, start to pass it, and then go back to it, and then kind of juggle, and then settle on 2, and I'll say it's 2 of clubs, isn't it, right? So that's how I present the trick, and it's really quite nice presented that way. And obviously how you're determining if they're lying or telling the truth is because you already know what their card is. So it's really easy to determine. Just wanted to throw that out there in case anyone was missing that link. So in terms of some uses and other ideas, first I will talk about other elements you can throw into this trick to jazz it up a bit. So one of the things I like to do is if I have someone else around, if I'm not just doing this for one person, then I will have that person try to guess if the main participant is lying, right? Whatever they say it's fine. If they get it right, if the person lied and they say, I think they lied, then you say, you know, perfect, I think they're lying too, you got it right, and you have a really nice moment where they believe that that person just read them. If they get it wrong, then you just kind of say, but did you see how they smiled, or whatever, you know? And, you know, I think they are telling the truth, right? Just play into it. Whatever they say, if they're wrong, you say, you know, well, look how he did that. You know, I think he might be lying or whatever. So either way, you have a really nice moment, you get someone else involved. Other little things, you know, I like to point out facial expressions they make, like, oh, you kind of smiled, or you blinked a little bit. That tells me you're kind of lying. And then if they kind of do it again, or even if they don't do it again, like if they lie twice in a row, and they smile the first time and the second time, whether they smile or not, I'm going to say, oh, look, you smiled again, you're lying, right? And no one's going to be really looking, and it'll be totally fine. And they'll really try to, you know, not smile, but just because you're right, whatever you say will go. Another little thing that's nice is to have a little piece of paper. And what I'll do is as I'm doing this, I'll write down the question, I'll write down, you know, yes or no, and then I'll circle what they said. And if I think they're telling the truth, I'll check it. If I think they're lying, I'll put an X through it. So then at the end, I have this paper that's written out with all the questions you can give out as a little souvenir. And you can also show people this as you're working through it. And it kind of gives it a little more of a realistic element where you're tracking the progress, and it does feel like you're trying to read them. All right, other ideas. The next best method for this, I would say, would be the riffle force. The nice thing about the riffle force is, again, I'd usually use the bottom peak for this, right? So after I know that card, I can look away the whole time. I don't even have to look at all. So I'll say, you know, tell me stop anywhere they want. They'll go like this, and then I'll go like this. And I'll say, you got that card? And I close it and hand it out. It's nice because, again, you have this sort of moment where you're going like this, and you have that card kind of concealed, and you hand it out right away, and you're not looking the whole time. So it is nice. Just in my opinion, I feel like the spread force feels a lot more like a free choice, you know, whereas this stop motion, it's still pretty good, but people, you know, they don't get that moment where they get to touch the card they want, okay? So I think that's important. It's really important to have a clean peek when you do this. So I talked about some methods for that at the beginning. Review that. You know, the one I use the most, just to kind of reiterate, is I'll try to peek when they're shuffling, and if I don't have it, I'll take it back. Usually put the deck down for a second. I'll say, all right, here's what we'll try. And I do a small little rotate like this, really quickly peek it. It looks like this, right? So I'll shuffle it up so I don't know what the bottom card is. I'll have the deck down, I'll say, all right, let's try something like this, right? And right there, you know, I've already peeked the card, 6 of diamonds, and I barely broke eye contact. It's literally down and up. You know, don't even move your head much, just quick glance. You can also use this obviously as a bit of a mind reading presentation. I prefer to do the more lie detector plot. Instead of lie detector, you can say, you know, you're gonna tell me a truth or a lie, and I'm gonna, you know, mind read it. Whereas I'm trying to present it as more of a body language thing. So there's those two ideas. Whichever one suits your style more. I prefer the lie detector plot. And then one cool idea is you can have some sort of device with you that you pretend is the lie detector, right? Maybe you use the card box and you draw something on it, or you set it up in a way, even if you had some cool little light that you could somehow secretly control, and every time they lie, you could like flick on the light with like a remote switch or something. And that would make it seem like, you know, you're doing nothing, but this machine is telling if they're lying or not. And that would be really cool. You know, they try to be fooling the machine, but they can't. So really anything you can come up with, you can get really creative and create anything as a sort of lie detector type thing. You could even do something with the cards where black card means you're lying, red card means you're telling the truth, and you kind of set that up in a certain way. Maybe you bottom deal the red cards, you have the black cards on the top for a fair deal or something. I don't know, but I'm sure there's a great method with an idea like that. All right, guys, that is lie detector. Pretty simple trick, a lot of fun to do. The most important things here is to nail that force, make it feel extremely fair, absolutely like a free choice, and then turn your head away so that there's, you know, no way you could know what the card is. And that's why the force method is the best in my opinion, because the second they look, you give it for a shuffle. Nothing feels more fair than that. And then also that peek, you don't want to draw any attention to it. You want to be really nonchalant. So I really like that. Once in a while, you'll get lucky and the person will do a riffle shuffle in the hands. So the bottom card will be away from them and it'll be staring you in the face. And that's the best situation because you don't even have to do any kind of peek. I really emphasize that you guys go check out the spread force video. That's really the only sleight in this, and it's really what will kill in this trick. This is the first trick on this channel that I'm teaching that's actually, you know, in my repertoire. This is something that I do perform once in a while. It's not my go-to or anything, but it's definitely there because it is strong and it's easy and quick, and it always hits hard, and people just love the whole game. aspect. So that's really nice. Feels good to finally teach something that I really enjoy and have spent a lot of time performing. This is a very simple one, probably the simplest trick in my repertoire, but it's a great one. So with all that said, please like, don't forget to subscribe, and I will catch you in the next video.